it doesn't matter what happens outside of us, we're always in contact with that love. And that's what's sustaining and supporting our life. It's our own self-love.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Food Matters podcast, your home for nutrition, health, and wellness education. My name is Laurentine. I am a filmmaker and a nutritionist and the founder of foodmatters.com, and I'm here to hold your hand on this journey to optimum health, transformation, and emotional healing. Hello, divine beings, Food Matters family. We are so excited to be on another Food Matters podcast. And today I am joined by the lovely Jennifer Partridge, all the way from Mexico. Hey, Jen.
Hi, Laurentine. So good to be here with you.
Totally. Yes, I'm so excited too, doing our little happy dance because we're going to be talking about some beautiful things today. But for those of you that don't know Jen, I would love to introduce her and a little bit about her bio. So Jennifer Partridge is the founder of Dream Awake Tapping. She is a tapping facilitator helping you unlock blocked emotions and heal from trauma that could be holding you back from living the life that you deserve. You might remember her from our Transcendence 2 Docu-Series, where we first learned her story. And today, we're so excited to have her back on the podcast to learn about how we can open ourselves up to stepping into our authentic self.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite topics. I'm excited.
So beautiful. So, of course, everybody wants to hear a little bit about how you got into it because it really forms the reason and the why behind your powerful message. And if you wouldn't mind, you could go deep into this as well. We'd love to hear your why story and your backstory, please, love.
Yes. I think some people that watch Transcendence might have got a little bit of it, but I'll share. So basically about, how long has it been now? Maybe 15, 16 years ago. I discovered tapping after being on a very long journey of self-discovery, of trying to heal myself. At the stage when I found tapping, I was already a yoga teacher, a breathwork facilitator, had spent a year living in India, and really had studied so many different practices. And the reason why I got into healing, which is why so many people get into healing and why they become healers in the end, is because they want to heal themselves. They're going through something that they don't know a way out. And for me, I was suffering from anxiety attacks and had a lot of PTSD from early sexual abuse as a child. And a lot of the stuff that was repeating in my life, I had no idea why it was happening. So, for example, in the middle of the night, I would wake up in the middle of the night. This is when I'd moved to the USA. This is about 15 years ago or 16 years ago. And then in the middle of the night, I was having these dreams of these intruders breaking into my room. And I would literally get up in the middle of the night and smash the window above my bed trying to escape. And yeah, it was really scary for me. We're on the second floor. And I would have like cuts down my arm from the glass, shredding my arms. And that happened two or three times. And then I moved apartments and I would find myself in the middle of the night trying to pull off the wire to the bedroom windows. It was really, really a strange thing happening. I had no idea what was going on. Yet something was happening in my subconscious, because when we're dreaming, our subconscious is most active. That's when it's like clearing out all the stuff. And so I knew there was something in my subconscious. I'd gone on a healing journey. I had learned in my day-to-day life how to find peace, through my meditation, through my pranayama, through my yogic practices. But when I was dreaming, when I was asleep at night, that's when my subconscious could have a party and I didn't have much control over it. And one night after smashing the window, I remember just sitting there going like, what is this? How do I figure this out? And I had no idea what to do. And very shortly after that prayer I put out into the universe, I met my teacher actually at Burning Man, out of all places. And she was there in these big winged costumes with about 500 people in this amazing big arena, and everyone was tapping and crying and processing their emotions together in one place. And I remembered, I mean, this is like 16 years ago. So I remember looking around, and emotional intelligence wasn't really a topic of conversation back then. It was only like just starting to, it's still starting to come out into the world, how important emotional intelligence. There was like mind intelligence, peaceful mind, body intelligence, yoga, but there wasn't such a thing as like, okay, emotional intelligence. And I remember looking around and just seeing people just bawling their eyes out in community. And it was so strange for me, but it felt so healing because I grew up in a culture and a family where, you know, your emotions are meant to be hidden. You're meant to hide them and go process on your own and not let anyone else see your emotions, or there's something wrong with you if you have emotions. But there I was in this audience of everyone like crying and breaking down and admitting their fears and their sorrows and their griefs. And I remember how much it shifted me in that moment. And I just happened to be teaching a workshop after this lady, because I was teaching breathwork and somatic movement. And I remember sitting in that class feeling really deeply transformed.
Going,
And
this
that,
is it. This is it. I found my calling.
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And that took me on a journey with Sonia. For 3 years, I was her right-hand girl, and I traveled the world with her. I went to her teacher trainings, I shot her content, and I was immersed for 3 years with her. And there were times in her trainings where I got to get really deep with the sexual trauma that was causing the PTSD. And I remember one session, just like all of the memories flooding back, and all of the
Mm.
memories had been numbed, you know, as children or even as adults. Sometimes we numb out the memories because they're too painful to remember, yet they're still there and they're still causing havoc and emotional problems and poor habits and stuff like that. So that was what my PTSD was doing. And then when I was going through this healing process with her, my hips started to clean out and realign, and the memories are coming up, and I was bringing safety to it. And it really shifted my body. It shifted the PTSD, and it was really something that changed my life. And so as I kept going deeper and deeper, I realized like this is my pay it forward. Like this has been so powerful for me that I have to share it with the world. And so I then went ahead and took a lot of the methods that I had studied and combined them together with tapping. So that's why I call it Dream Awake tapping. And it's complementary processes that go with the tapping as well that help it go deeper. A lot of people say that the style that I teach is very different than others. It's because I bring in these other components, somatic work, NLP, visioning, pranayama, to help with the trauma release based on what I discovered for myself, and now that I've supported so many in as well.
Wow, beautiful. Jen, so what happens when we have repressed emotions? Like when like you're saying, you know, you had these repressed emotions and you had probably been stuffing them under the carpet, or you didn't know how to deal with them, or you wanted to heal, but you just didn't know there weren't the right teachers showing up at that time, or you didn't have the facility to take time away from your busy life to be able to heal. But yeah, I'd love to know. And for all those listening, what do repressed emotions do if we keep numbing them down and stuffing them underneath the carpet?
Yeah, I think it's not only repressed emotions, but repressed trauma. Because when we have unresolved traumas in our life, that creates repressed emotions and limiting thoughts and everything. And the more we push that stuff away, the more it just creates all sorts of habits, coping mechanisms, dysfunction, energetically. I really feel that a lot of the issues that we have today, like depression and things like that, it's just there's a lot of unresolved emotions in there. And the thing is, like as a child, when we numb a trauma, we often forget later on in life that we're even repressing it, because we repressed it so long ago that it's so buried deep inside But then we have problems in those areas of our life. You know, dad left at a young age and abandoned. You have a story of abandonment, and it's just like sets up belief patterns. And so then later on in life, because you didn't heal it as a child, you start attracting similar types of circumstances with the men that you're dating who seem to abandon you all the time, right? Because you have an underlying belief that that's what men are like, and therefore you're unconsciously looking for that. And it's not so bad that we're looking for that, because when we find that representation again, it's an opportunity for us to heal the things that are stuck in our subconscious. And so whatever's arising on the surface, whatever we're attracting on the surface, is for us. It's actually for our healing. The pain is for our healing. The dysfunction is for our healing. It's bringing our awareness to it. And the longer we avoid looking at it, the bigger it gets, the louder it speaks. And then if you really ignore it, it'll end up in a physical disease, some type of explosive argument, businesses falling apart, all sorts of things happen the more you avoid, right? The more you push it away, it'll keep getting bigger and louder and louder and louder, saying, please look at me, until you say, okay, it's safe to look at all of this stuff, and I'm going to bring it love, and I'm going to bring it safety, and I'm finally going to bring it healing, because it didn't get the healing it needed a long time ago.
Wow. Yeah, that's exactly right. And so many of us are told, well, you know, positive affirmations, just keep being happy, or just keep vibrating at a high level, and then everything will go away. But sometimes if you don't actually deal with the repressed trauma, it's only just going to continue to fester. So my next question to you, though, is because so many of our society and the way that we were taught is through the medical profession, and through, if you're not feeling okay, if you're depressed, if you're feeling any type of anxiety, or even like PTSD, to go through the pharmaceutical route, because that's been designed for us for so many years as a method and a way to understand, okay, well, it's a remedy and it fixes symptoms, but how can we get to the bottom of it? Do you believe that tapping is the way forward for people with these types of difficulties and these types of mental health issues?
Yeah, I think the thing with any type of medications that the medical industry want to give you, I think it's important to have a time limit on it as well. Because I think a lot of the time it can create addiction, because you're not actually doing the work that needs to be done, which is what is creating it in the first place. Versus like, okay, this helps like numb some neuro pathways in my brain, so I'm not really aware of the fear that's there, but then that affects other areas of my life as well. So maybe like I'm not depressed anymore, but I just kind of feel flat, right? But we want to be filled with life. We want to be animated. We want to be alive. We want to be vital. We want to be grateful. We want to be feeling like life matters. And sometimes these drugs, they can help numb us a little bit, and therefore we don't feel all the intensity, we don't feel all the anxiety, et cetera, but it might numb us a little bit, where we don't feel the life force coming through us, or the joy or the gratitude for life. And so if you are on any kind of medication, most people that are on medication would like to be off medication at some point, right? And so wherever you are on your journey, putting something like this into your practice can help you clear what's creating it in the first place. And there is a process that I guide my students. I train coaches to do tapping. And so some of these are the topics that we talk about, you know, like when someone's having a lot of drug use, how to wean them off, because you don't want to shock them as well. But if you do the inner emotional work, then your system can recalibrate. And there's nothing in the background anymore that's creating the highs and the lows, the peaks and the valleys, because you've done the inner work to just stabilize your system. So that's what we want to do. When we stabilize our system, then everything expands around us. And it's not going super high and then going super low and then going super high, which sometimes, you know, manic stages of depression can have and things like that. It's about clearing that stuff out so we feel deep peace. And from that deep peace, that's when real joy can happen. And it's not going to plummet down again. So doing the inner work will actually allow you to come back to balance, because all of us have a right to have a healthy, balanced, joyful existence. It's just many of us were dealt cards growing up that were dysfunctional, and then we weren't given the tools to heal it. And so then we have all of these habits or idiosyncrasies or ways of dealing with your reality or perceptions or coping mechanisms just because of what happened earlier on. And so if we can heal what happened earlier on, we have a better starting ground for ourselves.
And so let's go back to a little bit of 101 on how tapping works. We know we have to tap on meridian points, but what's the science behind it for those that are skeptical?
Yeah. So there's a couple of ways that we're working. We're doing modern psychology combined with Chinese medicine. So if you've ever been to a therapist or a coach, it's similar, where you get asked to talk about your emotions, your thoughts, your memories, your beliefs. Everything gets drawn to the surface. And so if you've ever been to a therapist or a psychologist or any kind of coach, you're doing something similar. You're doing a call and response. You're speaking out loud those feelings while being invited to really feel those feelings. Because when we give ourselves permission to feel it, it comes to the top of the nervous system. Everything gets activated. And that's why it's so important to then clear it out of the physical body as well, which is the somatic part of the method. It's not just going to a psychologist or a coach and talking about it and understanding, oh, logically, I know this happened, therefore it made me believe this. That's why I got set up with a crappy childhood and now I have these beliefs. Like, many of us know the psychology behind it, but we're still repeating the patterns because it didn't get cleaned out of the physical body either. So when we combine it with the physical aspect, which is working with this Chinese medicine, the acupressure points. So in Chinese medicine, they'll often place needles or press these specific points, and they're connected to these meridians, these energy lines that run up and down the body. So this is 5,000 years old from the traditional Chinese medicine. And so what they've shown now in science is where these points are, which was developed way before science, that kind of science existed, is when you place a needle in one of those points, it's also connected to nerve bundles on the body. So the meridian points are connected into nerve bundles. And so that's going into the whole nervous system. So you're not only cleaning out the energetic body where everything starts, then you're clearing out the nervous system as well. And then these energy lines, these meridians, they go into the organs as well. So if you are dealing with a specific emotion, there's also an organ related to that emotion too. So in acupuncture, they say that when you put a needle here, it's clearing out this organ. It's also clearing out this emotion. So the emotion, so you're basically giving yourself an organ cleanse, an emotional cleanse. You're cleaning out the meridian system, the energy body. You're clearing out the nervous system. You're resetting it. And then you're rewiring the brain. You're basically drawing all that stuff to the surface. And then you're bringing love, compassion, empathy, and forgiveness to all of the stories. Because when a story happened that was painful, often we interpreted that story through fear, and then that wired everything in to have fear. So then when something similar happens on the surface of your reality, all of the wiring and the memories of fear and start to project onto that thing, which might not even be what's happening, right? So when you do the healing from the early wiring and you start bringing compassion and safety and forgiveness to when the memory was happening, you start to off gas, clear it out, and then you're able to rewire the brain. And there's a lot of science that they're doing now around watching what happens when the brain gets rewired. So in tapping, when you bring love, compassion, and empathy to fear, what they're showing is that you've got these synapses in the brain. They're basically shooting off patterns, and that gets triggered from outside stimulus. When those patterns are on loop, they just go back and forth. And that could be habits, emotional patterns, body temperature, all sorts of things start to get wired in place. When you start to bring love, compassion, and empathy to it, they've shown that the protein bonds, the scaffolding that's gluing the synapses in place, starts to melt away. The synapses opens up and you start rewiring the brain. And now you're rewiring the brain through love, compassion, and acceptance rather than fear.
Because that was my next question. Like, isn't that just re-traumatizing it yourself when you bring that to the surface, that emotion that you've been hiding for so long, but you're bringing it up, you're remembering it, you're feeling it, you're smelling it, you remember being in that moment. But a lot of times when we're not in a safe place, we will just be re-traumatizing ourselves.
Yeah.
Whereas if we are in safety, and you're like what you're saying with the empathy part, we'll allow our body to relax more into that emotion. Is that right?
Definitely, because in traditional therapy, there's this big buzzword that's going around right now, like don't re-traumatize someone, which is basically having them bring something to the surface as a therapist, and they'll get all triggered, and they're like, "Thank you for the session. See you later."
We're coming
and they're like,
the hour, and I'm going to have to see another client. But while you're bowling there, you know, just make sure you do some tapping. It's like,
and it's really dangerous, especially if you're working with individuals. Yeah, absolutely. And I've worked with people that have suicidal tendencies, anxiety attacks, all sorts of things, and you really need to know how to move someone through the process. And which is why I love to train coaches in this as well, because many people come into my trainings and they've come from other kinds of therapies or teaching other kinds of therapies, and they're really concerned about re-traumatization. And there is a journey and a process that you must take people through, especially if you're working with high levels of PTSD and trauma, to help them move over it and to feel safe enough to, first of all, look at it, and then whatever comes out of it when you're looking at it, to be able to cleanse it out and to repattern it and to hold it in safety and to like package it up again, and then know that they're safe and that they can come back again and reopen it and then close it down, reopen it until it's complete out of your system. It's a very delicate process, especially if you have high levels of emotion and trauma.
That's why I really believe in working one-on-one with a coach when you start doing this work, because a lot of people think, oh, I'll try this online, I'll try give this a go, or I'll do a breathwork course, or go and do a breathwork place where I'll go to do like a facility where I do breathwork. However, in a group environment, sometimes you don't get the same level of care or support or feelings of safety. So really, you're actually just on your own in this really uncomfortable environment, re-traumatizing yourself. But if you have someone there with you as your personal coach to be able to walk you through that and reprogram you, it's so powerful, right?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting you say that, because I have a big thing about the breathwork industry, because so many people are just like learning these invigorating breaths and trauma is coming up, and the people that are facilitating it went through a 6-week breathwork training and trauma is coming to the surface, and they don't understand what kind of breaths, trauma-informed breathwork, right? Because if someone's having a panic attack and you're making them breathe really fast, it's going to bring on the panic attack even more. You need to slow the breath down. And there's different kinds of breathing patterns to deal with different stages of trauma as well. And I think this one size fits all, let's get everyone breathing really fast. And I've spoken to so many people, and I've been in breathwork experiences where I've seen people go through like really big re-traumatization, and they don't know what to do after with it as well. It just activated something. And so I think in the breathwork industry, I think there needs to be a little bit more of trauma-informed breathwork, which is, breathwork really comes from pranayama, which is like the ancient traditions, the yogic traditions, and it's not just one kind of breath. There's many different kinds of breath to support where you're at and what you're wanting to achieve. But there's this like one size fits all. And I just see a lot of trauma coming up in these containers. So yeah, it's an interesting thing.
So tell me, for people that wanted to give this a go and would like to see your practice as a way for them to receive this type of healing that they've been waiting for. Like you said, I've been wanting to heal myself for so long, but I didn't know where to turn. What would they do? How can they get in touch with your coaches?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's many different ways. So if you wanted to do a one-on-one, you could always go to my website. We have different coaches listed there. If you're on the journey and you're wanting to heal yourself, doing one-on-ones with some of our coaches. We also have a healing program as well called the Personal Peace Process, which is a 7-week deep dive. And that's a really powerful one because it goes through the first 21 years of your life, and you basically map out all the significant traumas that ever happened. And then,
Really?
yeah.
A lot for me.
It's a very, very deep process. And then over the 7 weeks, we basically go into different topics each week, and then you get to choose the different memories that you want to heal. Because basically, like, we don't have an infinite amount of gunk in our life. We don't have an infinite amount of trauma memories either. So if we are proactive around healing it versus letting life trigger us, because we can either be proactive about our healing journey or we can let life trigger our healing journey. It's going to happen either way, right? When you proactively trigger it, you have a little bit more control over it because you have containers to do the work when it's arising. When we're not proactive around our healing journey, then just people trigger us, situations trigger us, life does, and then it can get messy. So I'm definitely all for being proactive around our healing journey, and that's a program that you could do as well. And then if you're a little bit further along and you are a coach or you want to share this method, then I do a 6-month certification program as well, which is a 250-hour deep dive into becoming a tapping coach and building a business and all the things. So yeah, there's some ways that you can work, but it's if you go to jenniferpartridge.com, you can check it out there.
And for our community, especially those of us that are listening that want to step more into becoming their authentic self, like they want to shed more of their limiting beliefs, they want to step more into what they believe is their purpose. Like they have really this energy around, I know what it is, but I'm still a little bit scared to show up. I'm still scared to be out there on social media, to really represent who I am and what my belief systems are. What sort of work can we do in that respect to bring people up to another level of vibration, let's say?
I think it all comes back to self-love at the end of the day, just really loving and accepting ourselves and not needing the approval from the world outside of ourselves to be loved, to know that our love is generated within. And it doesn't matter what happens outside of us, we're always in contact with that love. And that's what's sustaining and supporting our life. It's our own self-love. And I think when we have that, then we take more risks because we know, oh, if that doesn't work, hey, I'm still loved, right? I'm still worthy. I'm still a good human being, and this like deep self-respect. So when we have that, it makes us more courageous, allows us to take more risks, and kind of just takes the pressure off needing to get approval as well. Like, this is who I am, and not everyone's going to like it. Not everyone's going to jive with it. And that's totally okay because there's billions of people on the planet and everyone's got their thing. And I will attract my tribe according to me living in my truth, and the right people will show up. But if I don't live in my truth, I'll never have my tribe because they won't know how to find me and I won't know how to find them because I won't be sharing it. And coming into our truth, it means that we actually do attract more and more people around us that are in sync with us. And then life gets really fun because you've got all of this soul family around you. And for me, I love it. You know, I travel a lot as well. And after coming out of a breakup of 10 years, 3 years ago, I was in such a secure, safe bubble with my partner. And we had communities. I was still running my work and everything. But when I broke up, I was kind of unleashed into the world. I was like, okay, I'm going to travel and express myself and share and learn and meet new people. And I just started going on tour with my work and just sharing myself and sharing my journey of healing as well. And it gave me an opportunity to create community wherever I went. And now I can travel pretty much to any continent, and I've got community and family that I can drop in with. And that's because I honored myself, and I used that opportunity of feeling disregarded and hurt and let down and some really deep grief, and I transformed it into, well, I'm going to just do everything that I've ever dreamed of. I'm not going to let this thing hold me back. I'm going to let this thing create more of my potential. And so having that viewpoint on reality when something gets you down, knowing that it's actually an invitation to love yourself more, step up more, and choose the life that you really want.
It's so important to think like that, because whenever you go through a situation like a breakup, heartbreak, or grief, or losing a part of yourself, literally that's what it feels like sometimes when you lose somebody in your life that you love.
Yeah.
You feel like there's really no need to be alive. Like, it really can bring you so deeply
100%.
down into
Yeah.
the depths of sorrow for yourself.
Yeah.
It's like self-pity almost. And there's no real, reason to live. So it's beautiful that you were able to transform that into a way of loving yourself and seeing this as a beautiful possibility to go and do
Yeah.
things solo and all those
Yeah.
things that you weren't able to do when you were in a committed relationship working on something that you couldn't move away from.
Yeah, and that piece around letting go and the pain that comes up, it's real as well,
It's
it's
so
the
real.
grieving process is freaking intense when you let go of something really significant to you, and everyone has to go through grief at some point, and if you don't, then you end up being numb. And the grieving process is really letting go of the identity that you once had and all of the future visions of what you thought that identity was going to have in your life. And the grieving is literally like the purging it out of your cells, out of your tissues, out of your emotional system, and clearing it out so that there's space to then bring in a new intention, which is a new identity. It's a new way of being. But it's hard to bring the new way of being if you've got all of the old stuff you're holding on to still. And it's this old stuff that's no longer really you. And you don't really have the reality of it anymore, but you're holding on to it. So you got to like purge it out and reset your system and basically reincarnate while being alive. And I think sometimes, like, even for me, when I went through it, I had suicidal thoughts. I was like, it was a huge shift for me. It was like my homes, my family that was through my partner lived on the property with us, all of our possessions, the love of my life, like everything. The only thing that stayed was my business.
Yeah,
And my
sometimes you just
mission,
need something like to hold on to as your through
Yeah.
line.
Yeah. And then you discover all these new things, when you clear the space out, like all of these new interests. I started playing musical instruments and started learning a new language, started playing with pottery. Like I just started like all of these new interests as well, which is really fun because you're reinventing yourself and you're really curious. And then all of my studies of different cultures on the planet. And so
Yes.
all of this stuff came out of having that extra space available.
That's a beautiful way to re-look at it, because it is. It's like, you're right. It's grief, that deep sorrow, and then there's this empty void, and the things that you used to do together, and all of a sudden there's no that time. What do you fill it up with? But
Yeah.
that beautiful moment that you said you had that space to go and do all those things that you've always wanted to do, and the love for pottery, the love for all of the cultures that you went to go and visit after that. Imagine not doing that in a lifetime. You can almost see yourself as a cat. You have 7 lives. You probably have more than that in this lifetime, where you're now
Oh
able to,
my God.
right? You're able to
Yeah,
see
I'm getting goosebumps all over right now. Whoa, my hair is like sticking out. Whoa.
because you are a cat. That's why. So I wanted to give, especially those that are listening today, I wanted to give them experience of one of your beautiful tapping sessions. And I want it to be a short one, so it's something that people can rewatch or re-listen to if they need it.
Yeah.
So I was hoping if we could be able to do it on the topic of tapping for anxiety, stress, and being able to let go of the limiting beliefs to be able to step into our power, to step into our authentic self and showing up in this lifetime.
Beautiful. I love that. How long do you want it to be? I'll time it.
So I'm going to do it with you. So I'd love it
Yep.
to be, because we all have limited attention spans these days and time, maybe around 11 minutes, something like that.
Perfect. Great. Let's do it. Okay, so if you're going to do it with me, I would say maybe turn your microphone off so that your thoughts and emotions don't interfere with other people's.
Yeah.
But do it with me because it will be nice for you to have the experience as well, and then we can share a little bit about it. Okay, cool. So tapping into our power and our authentic self. Oh, awesome. So let's massage underneath the collarbone here. And then tuning into how you haven't been honoring your power, how you've been holding your power back, how you've been shrinking, how you've been hiding, doubting yourself, thinking you're not worthy, not good enough, whatever's there for you. Feel into the emotion that's there around it, the stuckness that's there. Take a big, deep breath, release a big sigh. Tapping the center of the chest, even though I haven't been expressing my full power. I'm saying this out loud. Tapping between the brows. I haven't been expressing my full power. Tapping the temples. I've been holding back my authentic truth. Tapping the cheeks. I'm really afraid of, tell me why you're holding back your power. What is the fear there for you? I'm really afraid of, say that out loud, what it is. Tapping underneath the nose, and that's making me feel stuck. Tapping underneath the lips. I forgive myself for being so stuck here. I forgive myself for holding back. I really just want to shine bright. Tapping the center of the chest. I really just want to trust myself. But I haven't been trusting myself. Tapping the front of the ribs. And I want you to tune into what limiting emotion comes up for you when you think about not showing your full power, hiding your power. I want you to tune into what that makes you feel. It makes me feel, and tell me what it makes you feel. Tapping the side of the ribs. And I've been thinking, what is a limiting thought that you've been having? I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. They'll laugh at me. What if I make a mistake? What's a thought you've been having? I've been thinking. And that makes me feel disempowered. Big, deep breath, big sigh. Tapping the top of their head. It's possible I'm worthy of love here. It's possible I'm worthy of love right here. And I want you to tune into a moment recently where you really wanted to show up more powerfully, but you didn't. Perhaps you made an excuse, or you procrastinated, or you hid yourself. Tune into what that was, what happened for you. Tapping between the brows. I was. Tell me what was happening. That made me feel. What did it make you feel? Tapping the cheeks. And I really needed, what did you need that would have helped you feel more confident and empowered in that situation? I really needed, say what you needed. Tapping underneath the nose. I really needed. Tapping underneath the lips. I really needed. What did you need that would have helped you? Tapping the center of the chest. And I was worthy of that. And I am worthy of that. I am worthy of, say what it is. I am worthy of, say what that is. I am worthy of, say it again. Tapping the front of the ribs. And I've always been worthy of this. Take a big, deep breath. Release a big sigh. Good. Tapping the side of the ribs. I am worthy of, say what that is. Good. Tapping the top of the head. I am worthy of. And it's possible I can receive that now. It's possible I can receive that now. Tapping between the brows. I can receive. Tell me what it is. Say what it is out loud. And I want you to tune into that memory or that moment recently that you were tuning into, tapping the temples of when you weren't getting it, of where you started to shut down and doubt. And in that moment, I want you to imagine that your higher self, your loving, caring, compassionate, wise, understanding, empathetic self is watching what took place. And you see them over there in the corner of your eye in that memory. And there they are in all of their authenticity, all of their love, all of their power, all of their care. And they walk over to you in that memory with all of their love, tapping the cheeks, and they just wrap their arms around you in that moment. They give you a great big hug. And feel that love of your higher self just hugging you right now in that moment where you really needed that support. And feel what that feels like to receive that kind of support from your higher self. Your authentic, embodied, loving, grounded, empowered self. Feel them hold you in that moment. Take a long, deep breath in. Release a big sigh. Beautiful. Good. And what does she want to say to you or he want to say to you in that moment? What is the message from your higher self, your authentic, loving, embodied self? What is the message for today? Tapping underneath the lips. The message is, say the message out loud. Yes, and I want you to imagine now, tapping the center of the chest, I want you to imagine if you fully trusted that message from here on out. I want you to imagine what that feels like in your body, in your life, to really let yourself trust that from here on out. Feel what positive emotions you feel. And expand how good that feels in your body. Really feel into how good that feels. Take a big deep breath, release a big sigh. Shake the arms up to the sky, move your body, take a big deep breath, exhale with a big sigh. Shake the shoulders, just move that energy through. Now we're going to get a little silly. We're going to stick out our tongue like a lion. Inhale. Beautiful. Tap all over your body. And I want you to say 10 affirmations out loud right now on what you're creating, who you get to be, and how epic and fun and beautiful it gets to be. Yes. Beautiful. Yes. A couple more. You got this. Woo. Okay. Hand on the belly, hand on the chest. Take one more deep breath in. Inhale and hold the breath. Feel the light in your central column. Feel yourself connected to your center, your light. And then I want you to feel that column getting bigger and bigger and creating a big ball around you right now. This is you and your power. You own this, and just blow it out like a cannonball. Fill the whole field up with light. Beautiful. Yay. How are you feeling? Anything you want to share?
Oh, that's such a beautiful practice to release these limiting beliefs. And so many of us, especially as little girls, have been told to stay quiet and be quiet and sit still and don't show up too much because don't shine too much, don't stand out too much. A lot of that was repeating in my head, and it came from my parents. And it came from the time when I was little. So I'm sure that there was a lot of other people listening today that had that energy come up where it was actually our parents telling us to stay small.
Yeah, and as women, it's interesting the lineage of women in general, just having to play small, and we're healing so much of that right now in our world. Women are stepping out more than they've ever stepped out and claiming their power and living their life on their own terms. And yeah, for the first time in human history, we get to do it our way. And the more we release the old beliefs that we can't do it our way because the way society used to be set up, the more we break down all of those old systems, we recognize that we are creators of life. We are creators of life.
Actually, creators of life. It's so true. If it wasn't for all of those, I guess it's like when I was doing this tapping experience, and I had a lot of these male voices telling me to quiet down and be quiet and sit in the background. I feel that it's when we start healing as women, we clear that whole generational path behind us, and we actually hear those voices supporting us again and hear them saying, you can do this. I support you. You know, like you were saying, recreate it, reprogram it. And then it is all those beautiful male voices in my corner saying, you got this, girl. I support you. And that clears all of that generational trauma. And that makes us feel like the goddess that we are and that we're here to be, you know?
Yeah, and that's the balanced feminine power, which I feel like, you know, there was a whole era of the rebellious feminine power, which was like the patriarchy and men and all of that, because the forgiveness work hadn't been done. And even men, like everyone's highest expression, no one wants to suppress anyone else. Everyone just wants to be in their power. Everyone wants all of their needs met, and everyone wants to feel good in their body and be healthy. And all of the fears that society put on us and all of the control, like men had to go through it in a different way. And all of their responsibility and everything. So they're doing their own cleanup. women are doing their cleanup, and we're coming to the table of like, okay, like how do we continue to be empowered beings together so that we all rise? And I feel like that's what this movement is about, for sure.
I love that. And then we all feel that we can shine without feeling that we're going to lose love, or that we're in trouble, or that we're shining a little bit brighter than the patriarchy, right? We do not have to have those fears anymore. We can feel safety in shining, in letting our voice be heard, in letting our brightness, most bright side shine. So it's amazing.
Yes. And then we can create life from that magnetism of shining. So it's like, it's flipping the whole story and recognizing that the brighter we shine, actually, the more magnetic we become. And it's not the brighter we shine, the more we're going to get like put down or like or like burned at the stake or anything. We're actually, we're actually.
We feel that in our DNA as women. It's because it's deep. There's deep trauma and scars there.
Of course, there's so much there. And we're stepping out of that time. We're actually really blessed to be in parts of the world right now where women's empowerment really is, there's a lot of liberation available to us, and we all are expanding that by doing it within ourselves individually, because we then become the torchbearers for others that get to benefit from the work that we do within ourselves, within our DNA, within our patterns from our generational lines. And so we do what we can to keep expanding ourselves, knowing that it will benefit the future.
Wow. Jen, I loved this conversation. I loved this healing remedy as well. And I believe it has so much incredible merit, from anything from dealing with heartbreak, sorrow and grief, depression, to helping people understand more about how they can let go and shed these limiting beliefs and step into their authentic power. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Laurentine, amazing questions. Really beautiful the way you guided it. I could just really feel how connected you are to the work as well. So thank you for giving me a voice in your network and being able to share what I love, and for doing that for so many as well. You are a gift.
Thank you, gorgeous. Well, thank you, Jen, and we'll make sure to put show note links in there for all of you guys watching on how to get in touch with Jen and the rest of her coaches.
Yay!
Blessings! Bye, gorgeous girl. Thank you guys all for listening. So yes, thank you everyone for listening. I really enjoyed that talk. I hope you did too. And there will be more of these on the Food Matters podcast. So head to foodmatters.com and see you again.